and welcome back to Writer's World Radio, episode 34. I shall be your animated host, Matthew Graken. Today is going to be a long topic, and I apologize in advance, so I want to get right to it. It's the 22 Rules of Writing a Great Story by Pixar. So these rules were originally tweeted out by Emma Coates, who is one of Pixar's story artists. So a lot of you may have seen them online, but we shall get to them. You admire a character for trying more than their success. It's how the character tries, you get behind the underdog. You get behind a character that is driven in what drives them more than what their end game is or what they have accomplished at the end of the story. You gotta keep in mind what's interesting to you as interesting to your audience. It's not necessarily what's fun to do as a writer. It could be two different things. I'm paraphrasing on that one. But what you think as a writer will make a good story, or what you think as a writer should go into a story, is not necessarily what your audience may want to hear, read, or see. This is where getting to know your audience, or knowing who your audience is key and important. Because if you think you should put this element in the story in, and it either destroys the story flow or just doesn't go, you're going to lose your audience. And the whole reason that you're publishing is for your audience. Otherwise, you're just going to write this story and just put it in a drawer somewhere and let it collect dust. That's when you write for you. I mean, you are writing a little bit for yourself because you're a writer and you love to write, but you, in the end, you're a storyteller. It's going to be the people that you're telling the story to. That's important. Number 3, trying for a theme is important, but you won't see what the story actually is about till the end of it. Now rewrite. Simply what they're saying there is, it is important to write a theme to the story. You need a theme in the story. But it's called a story because that's the key part. You want a theme, but this theme needs to work in tangent with the story. They kind of flow in unison. So you have your story, your theme is underlined and flowing along with it, but your main focus is that story. You want to tell a story. You're not telling a theme. Basic flow for a story. Number 4 is, once upon a time there was blank. Every day, blank. One day, blank. Because of that, blank. Because of that, blank. Until finally, blank. Fill in those blanks and you have a basis for a story. You have kind of the beginning, you have their normal everyday life, then what changed, what's happening because of that change, and then until finally your end. Simply focus, combine characters. You simplify. Hop over detours. You feel like you're losing valuable stuff, but it sets you free. So don't get too over involved in things. Come up with 100 characters for your book or for your novel. Do you need all of them? Are they all important? Because after a while you're reading, you won't be able to keep people straight. You won't be able, who is this? Who is that person again? You learn all about this one character and they never show up again. You never deal with them. An example, for the TV show and for the movie of MASH, the character of Frank Burns was actually a combination of multiple characters from the book. But to keep the audience visually connected to these things, and just to be able to cut back on characters so you don't have all these other characters going on, to simplify stuff, they combine the two characters. You can do that with your writing too. You can have these multiple characters running around, but do you need all of them? take two of the different characters, combine them into one, does actually make a more interesting character. And it will help your story flow and keep your audience a little more connected. They won't miss out on the fact that there's one less character. What is your character good at? Comfortable with? Throw them the polar opposite. Challenge them. How do they deal? Again, conflict. Conflict is the basis of a good story, basically. So, you want to know how to write a story? You come up with your character. Okay, how do I get a story out of them? Or what kind of story would be good for this character? Well, here's what the character's like. How do I throw them the curveball? Throw them something that's they're not comfortable with. Put them in a situation that they're really uncomfortable with. And then go from there. The show White Collar. You had a criminal, a con, that was his source of life was breaking rules. So what did you do? What did they do? They made that character work for the FBI. His enemies, basically. In trying to stop people from doing what he does naturally. I mean, that talk about conflict of interest for that character. Or if you want to go classical, look at Les Miserables. Jean Valjean, a good-hearted person. What'd they do? They threw him in jail. They made him a criminal. And everyone's view of him was a criminal. But everything he tried to do was good. He was trying to help people. He was trying to live the best life he could. But a lot of people could not see past the fact that he was a criminal. So, conflict. Come up with your ending before you figure out your middle. Seriously, endings are hard. Get yours working up front. Get yours worked up front. So, you start with your beginning, you start with your end. Where are you going with this story? What is the end goal of it? Even how does it begin? Your beginning and your end are your key points. Those are your anchors. So think of it like a ship. You have your ship, your beginning, or your end in this fact. And then you have your pier. The rope in between is going to hold them together. But if without the one and the other, there's no point for the rope. Do not focus primarily on your middle. Figure out where you're going with this story. You can start right in the beginning. You can even write your end. The middle will fill itself in. And it'll be a little more direct. It will flow better. Because if you write your middle, you're going to write a middle. Then you forget, oh wait, I have to end this thing. And then all of a sudden you have an end. It's not going to flow naturally. People get frustrated at the end. So figure out your end. Figure out your beginning. And then the rest of it will kind of naturally fill itself in. And this worked great. Even if you write the ending before the middle, you could edit the ending to make the connections work a little better for you. But you'll still at least know where you're going. You need your destination. When you get in a car and start driving, you know your beginning, you know you're driving, but if you don't know where you're ending, what's the point of the drive? Finish your story. Let go even if it's not perfect. In an ideal world, you will have both. But move on. Do better next time. So if you start an idea and you start writing a story, see it through. It's going to, even if you, at the end, you never use that story, you may get some ideas out of it for your next story. And also, you just get that practice of writing a story. And just don't end yourself short. Don't cut yourself shy. When you're stuck, make a list of what wouldn't happen. Lots of times the material that will get you unstuck will show up. So when you're writing and you get stuck, you know what's going to happen. And you just get to this point that, okay, now what? Now what? What's going to what's going to happen from here? Writer's block, most people call it. But in this case, all right, instead of trying to figure out what will happen, go for this isn't going to happen, that's not going to happen, that's not going to happen. By eliminating what's not going to happen, what will happen should appear. Pull apart the stories you like. What do you like about them is a part of you. You got to recognize it before you can use it. So dissect the stories. Pull them apart. And what's the most enjoyable parts of it? A lot of it's probably going to seem very familiar because it's parts from you. It is you. It's your personal. It's the personal parts of you that you put into the story. And you have to recognize that there are elements of you in each of your stories. As sometimes as bizarre or far out there that you think they are parts of you. Put it on paper. Let me start that one over. Putting it on paper lets you start fixing it. If it stays in your head, a perfect idea, you'll never share it with anyone. As I always say, take the time, start writing. Even if it's just part of an idea. You start writing, you start molding, you start fixing that idea, you start working it. If you keep it in your head, you're not sharing it with anyone. Again, it goes back to what I was just saying before. You write as a writer for your audience. You don't write just because you want to write. If you do, you're going to write that story and stick it in a drawer. You almost, at that point, keep it in your head. Don't even bother writing it. Because who are you sharing that with? What was the point of you telling that story if it's not to share it with somebody? That's why you write it down to begin with. Discount the first thing that comes to your mind. And then the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. Get the obvious out of the way. Surprise yourself. So don't come, first thing that comes to your mind, don't necessarily go with that. Second thing that comes with your mind, keep expanding. Keep pushing those boundaries. Keep moving forward. And that's going to make it even more of a powerful story. If you just go with the first thing that comes to mind, I mean, sometimes that does work. But make sure that is the best option. You can hold on to them, but try and see if you can do better. Give your characters opinions. Passive malleable might seem likable to you as a writer, but it's poison to the audience. Think of it, this is a very opinionated world. Your characters should be the same way. They should have their opinions, they should have their beliefs, they should have their grounds that they stand for, and they should stick with them. I mean, you do, I do, we all do. Your characters are human too, or people too, in whatever aspect. But they need their beliefs, they need what they're standing up for. Or not even just standing up for. It's almost like their morals. This is something that the character believes in, or this is what the character stands for. The character's against guns. They're not going to go all of a sudden go out and buy a gun for, to have one to keep in their desk drawer. It's against their beliefs. They're not. You can't just keep molding them like that. If they're against guns, they're against guns. If they're for driving really fast, they're always going to drive fast. And that's, if they're opinionated about something, especially people that are opinionated and overspoken, it's annoying in the real world, actually plays out well in the book sometimes. Why must you tell this story? What's the belief burning within you that your story feeds off of? That's the heart of it. So deep down, why do you feel that you need to write this story? What is the nagging essence of this story? What is it that's just eating away with you? The part of the story that just keeps coming back, that you're going, oh wait, this is why I need to build off of. This is why I'm writing it. This is what I'm going, okay, this is going to happen, then this, that. What's that key cornerstone? You need to recognize that, because that's what you keep building the rest of the story off of it, building the rest of the story. It's your cornerstone. That's what holds everything together. If you were your character in the situation, how would you feel? honesty leads to credibility, to unbelievable situations. So, what's going on in the story may seem fantastic, but don't forget to write about how those characters feel, how your character feels. And the best way to do it, especially since you're, like I said before, they said before, that the characters are part of you, how are you feeling about it? If you were in that situation, are you scared? Are you nervous? Do you feel like crying? Do you feel your legs shaking? Do you feel this uncontrollable urge to run away? Or the uncontrollable urge to charge? That fight or flight situation. Write that in, because it's going to make people connect and more be able to visualize what's going on. What are the stakes? Give us reason to root for the character. What happens if they don't succeed? Stack the odds against. So, again, these stories, the more unbelievable they are, sometimes the more fantastic they seem. I mean, think about it. Let's go to Harry Potter. It's just average boy who's not even, he doesn't realize that he has these magical powers. He doesn't even know about this stuff. And next thing you know, he's at the school trying to save everybody. He's going against these odds in this magical world that until days, weeks, months earlier, he knew nothing about. So, I mean, how fantastic would it be? All of a sudden you find out that, you're part of this other lifestyle and world that you never even knew existed. And then you're conquering it. That just makes it all the more challenging. Or just even more interesting to your reader. That, oh wow, like I said, go for that underdog. A lot of people love that underdog. No work is ever wasted. If it's not working, let go, move on. It'll come back around to be useful later. So if you're trying to figure out an element of your story that it's just not clicking, you can't get it in there. It's not part of the flow of the story that just seems right. So it's the part that you edit out. Well, don't throw it out and delete it permanently. Put it off to the side. You may end up working it in later at another point. You tweak it and it actually works in well. Or you may use it in a whole nother story altogether. No good idea ever dies. It just will come back in another form. You have to know yourself. The difference between doing your best and fussing, story is testing, not refining. So know what you're capable of, know what you're comfortable with, and push those boundaries. My story, The Spectres, it was not something I was comfortable with writing, but I did push myself, and it did help me expand my writing. It actually helped me write the book I released before that, The Third Haunting, and put some more elements into that, which actually I think worked well in both. And it was knowing myself, knowing that, okay, I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm going to move forward with it anyway, and expand your skills. Be more than just the basic writer. If you don't keep expanding your skills, you're not going to get better at it. And that goes with many things in life. Coincidence to get a character into trouble are great. Coincidences to get them out of trouble, that's cheating. And that's a good rule. If all of a sudden they're driving along and they're almost out of gas and then find, oh wait, I got another tank of gas, I can throw it into the car and be able to keep going. That's bad storytelling. But if it's coincidence that they're in a car chase and they're running out of gas, it's going to put people more on the edge of their seat. It's going to challenge your character. How are they going to get out of this? What's the best way out of it? And it's going to challenge you as a writer to try and come up with an ending or solution. But again, it's good storytelling because putting everyone on the edge of the seat, and if it seems like coincidence that happened, the bad thing happens. Bad things happen by coincidence. Good things don't often. Good things are usually brought upon by hard work. Exercise. Take the building blocks of a movie you dislike or a story. How do you arrange them to make it something that you do like? Well, there you go. How do you like this? What you hate this movie. Well, what do you hate about it? It's usually not necessarily the story, but a lot of times the way that the story is told. Well, how would you tell that story? How would you make it your own into something that you would like? Number 21. We're almost there. You gotta identify with your situation or your characters. You can't just write, cool. What would make you act that way? So, again, it's knowing your characters and knowing your audience. And how does it all work together? So, how can you create that character? How do you relate with that situation? And the more that you relate with it or can feel about it, the more personal you can make the writing. And the more personal writing is, the more the audience will enjoy it. What's the essence of the story? Most economical telling of it. If you know that, you can build out from there. So, what's the bare bones of the story? What are the key things that are going to happen? What are the key things that are happening? What is the key parts of the story? So don't get lost with the side stories and the expansion of characters and the demographics and side characters and subplots and details. If you were to just tell someone, if you had 5 minutes to tell a story, or 3 minutes to tell a story, what's that story you're going to tell? Because you're not going to you're not going to add in all excess details. You're not going to go into side stories. You're going to go just like that other one. Because of this happens, every day this is what's going on, then this happens, then something happens, conflict, and things change. That's what you want to write about. That you want to figure that part out. And once you got that down solid, you not need to change anything, and you're extremely happy and excited and giddy about what the bare bones is, then you can build upon that. Again, you need that cornerstone. If it's not for the cornerstone, it's called a cornerstone for a reason. If it's not for that cornerstone, everything else is just going to fall apart. So once you have that built strong, build upon that, build upon that, build upon it, expand upon it. You put your sub-stories in, you put your additional characters in. And if it's going to be a multiple book story, you put the arcs in and put things that are going to show up in 3 books later. You can put them in the first book and just expand it. It becomes passionate and it becomes wonderful and something that a lot of people are just going to get into. Sorry it took so long this time, but I just thought this was something wonderful to share with everybody. And especially if you're a new writer or you feel stuck as a writer, these are some good tools. Well, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all doing practicing your 10 minutes a day of writing or research and just building those stories. And I said after a week, after a month, you'll be amazed how far you got. I hope you're all doing well. I hope the weather's getting better for everybody. Easter's coming up. Happy Easter, happy Passover if you're celebrating Passover. Happy spring if you're celebrating just the spring. And, if you need to contact me, if you need help with any of those rules, you want to discuss it, hey, I have this idea and I just don't know where to go from that, or I've written this down. Can you go over it, any suggestions? What do you think? Does it make sense? Email me at writersworldradio@yahoo.com. That's the email for the show. Good way to get in contact. Or use the Facebook. The Facebook is good. Facebook.com/MatthewJGraken. The Twitter works as well. At Matthew J. Graken is the Twitter handle. Use the hashtag Writers World Radio to be able to connect it all together to keep the community going. If you have ideas or suggestions or your thoughts on these 22 ideas, put them in the comments below. Tweet them out. Use the Facebook. And again, I know this was a longer one, but I hope you liked it. And let me know. Make sure you rate the show, like the show, subscribe to the show. And I'll see you next time.